The day after Mexico and Canada negotiated respective 30-day pauses on President Donald Trump's proposed 25% tariffs on their goods coming into the U.S.,
we've found a good, I think, accommodation here, and we're going to be showing progress over the next 30 days.
Trump's 10% tariff on all goods coming to the U.S. from China took effect after midnight on Tuesday, and Beijing pushed back with tariffs on some U.S. energy and metals imports. The moves elevating trade tensions between the world's two largest economies, and eventually the American consumer could get caught in the middle.
I think it's a lose-lose. It's just a question of how big the loss. It raises prices, raises inflation, and of course, we've been through a very wrenching period globally with high inflation. It's been a real problem.
Among items that could see higher prices, consumer electronics like phones, TVs, and computers, toys, jewelry, silverware, and sporting equipment, and shoes and sneakers imported in large numbers from China. The real impact will be felt once businesses deplete their current warehouse stock and need to bring in more, unless the U.S. and China strike a deal soon. Democrats note that tariffs don't align with the economic relief Trump promised in his 2024 campaign.
Tariffs will undoubtedly drive up costs. You shared some of those numbers earlier, and people are living paycheck to paycheck. This is the opposite of what Trump ran on and what the American people want.
President Trump is not giving up his obsession with linking China and the Panama Canal, punctuated by this remarkable moment in his inaugural address.
China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
That drew an immediate public condemnation and rejection from Panamanian President Jose Raul Mulino. And privately, sources tell CNN, letters to the UN Secretary General and the UN Security Council lodging protest over their view, Trump went so far as to violate the UN Charter with his threat. So what is the truth? Well, I toured the canal and its operations, getting exclusive access to try and separate fact from fiction.
There's no question Beijing's influence in Panama has grown over the course of the last couple of decades. You take a look at this memorial, this monument, right near the base of the Panama Canal's Pacific entrance. It underscores 150 years of relations between Panama and China. This one, of course, in relation to the building of the Panama Railroad, not exactly the Panama Canal.
It goes without saying, a monument celebrating cultural ties, no matter its location, is far from what Trump claimed last month when he wished Merry Christmas to Chinese troops he said were operating here.
Well, you can look. There's no actual Chinese soldiers on the ground, no Chinese troops, but Beijing's influence is obviously a #1 issue.
Put that in the absurd fiction column.
This is the Atlantic side, which was very...
I also checked with Ilya Espino de Marota, Deputy Administrator of the Canal, the autonomous agency that actually operates the canal, not China.
We're very transparent. You can know that this is run 100% by Panamanians.
I haven't seen any Chinese soldiers operating.
No.
I'm not missing anything?
And you will not know.
In fact, the Canal Authority says it had 8,549 employees in 2023. 8,541 were Panamanian. Mark another under fiction. But here's an undeniable fact. China's investment and influence here is substantial.
Right across the water, you see a port that was built by a subsidiary of a Hong Kong-based company.
That's the Port of Balboa, one of the busiest ports in Latin America and one of 2 operated by Hong Kong's Hutchison ports located at each end of the canal. While not state-owned, they are subject to China's national security laws. At the same time, Beijing's nearly 7-fold acceleration in direct investment in the country was readily apparent around the waterway that serves as a fulcrum in U.S. strategic and economic power. A brick-and-mortar window into a reality. Trump's broad concern about China's influence is widely shared.
I worry about they look like civilian companies. They're state-owned enterprises that could be used for dual use and could be quickly changed over to a military capability if they needed that too.
That warning from the commander of U.S. Southern Command back in 2022 has been echoed by national security officials and bipartisan lawmakers alike in recent years. But Trump, ironically, was never one of them in his first term, because that's exactly when China's rapid push into Panama really accelerated. Panama President Varela stunned U.S. officials when he cut ties with Taiwan and established formal relations with Beijing in 2017, just 6 days before Varela visited with Trump, a meeting where Trump never actually raised China, according to two sources in the room. Dozens of bilateral agreements between Panama and China followed. Then Panama's entrance into China's Belt and Road Initiative. Then a push toward a free trade agreement. And just a few hundred yards from where I stood just a few days before Trump's inauguration is where Xi Jinping became the first Chinese leader in history to visit Panama in the canal itself. A trip Trump never made in his first term. Nor did he ever have his own ambassador here to represent his administration.
These are the sounds that washed out the usual afternoon traffic ambience on Highway 90 in Biloxi.
No hate, no fear, enemies are welcome here.
That chant, summarizing the message that dozens of protesters shouted for more than 3 hours.
Mexico! I just want to build a legacy that we can remember and be proud of.
Alan Lara is a proud first-generation American. He told me he felt it was his duty to be here.
It's been scary. A lot of people are afraid to come out. And I feel like the young individuals of our community should come out and represent our parents.
Dig beyond the cheers, you will find a community fearful about what's happening in this nation.
Even though I'm a U.S. citizen, I'm frightened. I'm frightening. I fear for my family and my community.
Unfortunately, right now, it hurts our people, you know, and that's why we're here right now.
Alma Leon is one of the protest organizers. She brought her family to voice their First Amendment right.
I couldn't be prouder than my mom. We're here to support everybody. The immigrants built this country, and we're here to stay.
Honestly, I cried on my way here because I did not expect this much of an outcome.
Abigail Ramirez is also a first-generation American. Her family moved here after Hurricane Katrina to help rebuild South Mississippi. She helped organize this call to action after she saw other protests happening around the United States.
Just being the voice for those who can't speak for themselves right now. That's really where the passion is from, because I've grown up all around these type of people that have just fought their whole lives for a better future for themselves and their families.
She also said she was moved to see the support from people outside the Hispanic community.
They're good people. They just want to come and work and have a better life for themselves.
If you have bad individuals, I get it. But most of these people are excellent and work diligently. I have no problem at my club with them, so I don't understand.
A lot of the people we serve are scared, and we're here to support them, staying in solidarity.
It's amazing. And what's amazing is the support from people honking and people giving us a thumbs up. I think because people get the fact that, that we're all migrants and we're all immigrants. The only original Americans were the people that were indigenous.
Just as lighthouses provide a guiding light for vessels, the protesters hoped this display will be a shining light for their community. In Biloxi, Noah Noble, WLOX News Now.
In the ruins of Gaza, Sami Ramadan is determined to clear the rubble where his home once stood. And he is determined to stay. We will not leave. Occupation and colonization will vanish, and we will stay, he says. As long as we live on this land, we will stay. We will die here. Even if in a tent, I will live in the ruins of my home. Like so many here, he swiftly rejected President Trump's proposal to permanently displace Gaza's 2 million Palestinians in favor of a U.S. takeover, and the president's rationale for doing so.
What's the alternative? Go where? There's no other alternative. If they had an alternative, they'd much rather not go back to Gaza and live in a beautiful alternative that's safe.
But hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have decided to return to their homes. Alongside tents pitched amid the rubble, they have already begun to rebuild. They say they are undeterred by the scale of the destruction. I don't care what Trump says or anyone else. Look, my house is completely destroyed. There's not even a roof. But here I am, I am staying. Jordan and Egypt, the two countries Trump is pushing to accept Palestinian refugees, reiterating that Palestinians must be able to remain in Gaza amid what will be a years-long reconstruction. While Trump says his proposal is a humanitarian one, human rights experts call it a crime against humanity.
Their removal is equivalent to their forced exile, permanent and forced exile, the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, and the denial of their return, which is already a Palestinian condition.
So there's no question in your mind that what President Trump is suggesting here is ethnic cleansing?
There should be no question in anybody's mind. Trump is saying it himself, that this is about the removal of Palestinians. He's calling Gaza a home to 2.3 million people, a home to an indigenous people, a demolition site, because the U.S. funded that demolition by air, by sea, by ground. And now in order to complete the project, they want to remove Palestinians altogether and then to claim ownership of it.
Trump's proposal is being heralded on the right wing of Israeli politics, where lawmakers have long pushed for the forcible displacement of Palestinians.
Those who carried out the most horrific massacre on our land will find themselves losing their land forever. Now, with God's help, we will work to permanently bury the dangerous idea of a Palestinian state.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calling Trump's proposal worth pursuing. But even as he stopped short of a full-throated endorsement, Netanyahu's broad smile said it all. He and the new U.S. president now speaking the same language. Jeremy Diamond, CNN, Tel Aviv.